Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video of Fox Flicks on the Game Theaters. Today, we're back with another theory on FNAF security breach. MatPat, let's see what you got to say. Looks like he's trying to set up for something big.
Testing. Oh boy, you're not gonna like this one, but I think we're right.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that started so many flame wars you'd think we were a pizzaplex. So right now I'm in the middle of re-examining every piece of FNAF lore the series has ever produced in order to construct a definitive timeline for the series. Or, I suppose, as definitive as possible for the series, considering, you know, it's FNAF. That means that me and Tom and head editor Dan are combing over every misleading teaser, every line of hidden website source code, every page of the novels and their accompanying graphic novels, and every questionable skin from FNAF AR from Big Chungus Springtrap to Statue of Liberty Chica. Because nothing says America quite like rebranding a national monument with a giant toga-wearing murder chicken shilling for pizza. And our forefathers wept. Anyway, since this is an absolutely massive quest, we've broken the timeline down into 3 core chunks. Foundations of Freddy's, the Afton era, and post-Purple Guy. Basically everything that happens post-Springtrap getting torched in FNAF 6. And while that timeline theory is still in the works, we've already made some discoveries. Some big and some small, and it's one of the bigger ones that brings us here today. You see, as we were rewatching all the cutscenes from FNAF 6, we heard this line from the completion ending of the game.
Thank you for your participation. There is no need for you to return to work next week, as Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity.
Oh sure, everyone remembers the whole don't keep the devil waiting bit during that ending, but all of us tend to forget what comes after the fire. An acknowledgement that Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity. When Henry dies in that fire, the game makes it clear that the company dies with him. But that doesn't make any sense knowing what we know now. In FNAF VR, AR, and Security Breach, Fazbear Entertainment is alive and still very much running. In fact, the company seems stronger than ever, building a giant mega pizzaplex that towers over anything the company's ever done before. So what gives? A dissolved company can't be going around making new games, and they certainly aren't building new 80s inspired animatronics, are they? All of it seems to imply that someone restarted the company between FNAF 6 and FNAF VR. And it was that single, simple observation, my friends, that led us down a rabbit hole I believe may have solved another core part of Security Breach's endlessly frustrating story. First, we wanted to prove to ourselves that this corporate restart was a real thing. Throughout the core gameplay of FNAF 6, if you buy and display animatronics with a high liability rating, you get a chance to experience a fun little mechanic known as being sued. You go through these lawsuits and decide whether to pay a lawyer to fight for you or just pay the listed amount to settle the case. It's a fun, quirky gameplay mechanic that fits with the humor of the franchise. However, there's a detail within these lawsuits that's important. If you take a look at the names at the top of each lawsuit, you'll see that the defendant is listed as Fazbear Entertainment, Inc. Those last 3 letters are important. That I and C there means that Fazbear is an incorporated company. It means that Fazbear Entertainment has shareholders, people that own stocks within the company. There are also 2 different types of corporations, S-Corps, which tend to be smaller, and C-Corps, which tend to be bigger. Trust me, you don't really want to know any of that, nor do you need to know any of it for this theory. I just bring it up because it's not...
Yeah, well, those would be the kinds of guys that would be demanding Fazbear Entertainment to come back and create the pizzaplex that we all know and love.
That Steph and I have accumulated over the last decade of doing this work as business owners, and I just wanted it to be validated at some point in my life. Anyway, useless business information aside, as we hear at the end of FNAF 6, Fazbear Entertainment, Inc. has been dissolved.
Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity.
We can assume that Henry, in his final act before sacrificing his life, dissolved any and all ownership remaining in the company so it would die with him, which is why it's so weird that suddenly it's back. And not just back, but back in a completely new form. In Security Breach, if you check out the Balloon Boy arcade cabinet above the daycare, on the title screen you'll find that the copyright is now owned by a brand new company, Fazbear Entertainment, LLC. Again, those last 3 letters there are important. They stand for Limited Liability Company. Basically, it means that the owners of the business aren't shareholders, but rather one or a small group of individuals that can't be held responsible for the debts of the business. For instance, if the Fazbear business took out a small loan of $1 million but couldn't pay it back, the banks couldn't then approach Henry or William's personal money demanding repayment. LLC members also aren't usually responsible for the co-owner's negligence or wrongdoing, which again, knowing the history of this company, is probably going to be a better business arrangement. Most importantly of all, though, LLCs tend to be smaller, held by one or a few individuals rather than a collection of shareholders. And this actually explains a lot. If you go for the Afton ending of Security Breach, you go down the elevator only to discover the FNAF 6 pizzeria underneath the whole thing. Try explaining that decision to your shareholders. We're just gonna build our new mall on top of that old burnt down pizzeria. That'll rake in the big bucks. How about the fact that we get messages on the FazWatch from building contractors concerned about building a giant mall over the equivalent of a sinkhole? Again, this doesn't feel like something you'd be able to do if the company had shareholders, but if the business is owned by a single individual, they could essentially do whatever they wanted. They don't have to answer to anyone. In short, there is strong evidence to suggest that someone has restarted the
before we get on with this, can I just say one thing? I love how MatPat has continued to do all these years to continue to use that gloved hand for everything. It's never changed, no matter what it's being used in. That glove hand is pretty much the true mascot of game theory. More than MatPat, more than Steph, more than Pikachu himself. That gloved hand is the theorist mascot. Try to tell me I'm wrong. He's been using that for years.
Fazbear brand under this new corporate entity.
Let's go.
But who would do that? Why would they do that? Was I just chasing down a lead that didn't matter? No, because I wasn't the only one asking the question. In December of 2021, this book was released, the FNAF Ultimate Guide. Basically your one-stop shop for anything important to the franchise, written by the man himself, Scott Cawthon, and only Scott Cawthon. This thing is robust. It contains every scrap of dialogue, every game mechanic, a summary of every Fazbear fright, and a description for practically every one of the nearly 150 characters introduced into the franchise. If it ain't in here, it probably ain't worth your brain space. And if the book explicitly calls something out, well, it's probably gonna be worth a look. And wouldn't you know it, but in the FNAF AR description of the glitch trap virus, we get this quote. The cease work order from the Fazbear Entertainment Office of Legal Affairs seems to indicate that the company at some point becomes aware of the problem and tries to stop it. That leaves one question. Just who is running the company? And it was here that I knew that I was onto something. The fact that the Ultimate Guide felt the need to point it out made me realize that this is absolutely something that we need to be solving. The clues are in place for us. It was now time for us to put it all back together. So let's figure out who's running the show over at the new improved Fazbear Entertainment LLC, shall we? Well, let's consider what exactly that person is doing. First and foremost, they're building a brand new location over the remains of the old FNAF 6 location. That right there is a huge red flag. Why not just bulldoze the whole thing and build a new one? Unless, of course, they know what's down there. Because remember, underneath it all lies the heart and soul of this franchise, Afton. They are choosing to build their new location on top of his literal gravesite. The head of this new Fazbear Entertainment LLC wants access to him. And as we see at the end of the game, it seems like their goal is to bring him back to his former glory. But just having access to Afton's body isn't enough. This person wants more. We know that the head of Fazbear Entertainment LLC has been actively taking an interest in Vanessa becoming head of security, despite her having no qualifications for the position. We know this based on in-game messages. Quote, interview notes. As requested, here are my notes on today's Chief Security Officer interview. While Vanessa seemed eager and bright, she doesn't appear to have any relevant background experience. I realize the recommendation came from the top, but we need someone who's run security for a facility of this scale. I do not recommend her for this position. Based on this email, Vanessa should have never gotten the position, but note that it's marked for deletion. Someone wanted to hide the poor interview performance. Someone at the top. In yet another email, we see this. Quote again, new hire summary, head security guard, no prior qualifications, internal reference, name withheld. The person putting Vanessa forward for the job is trying to stay anonymous. But hold on, why would someone want to hire Vanessa despite her limited experience? Well, the only really special thing about her is that she's possessed by Glitch Trap. So if someone's trying to bring Afton back, preserving his body underneath the Pizzaplex, it makes sense to get someone into the Pizzaplex who houses the only other part of Afton that remains, his consciousness in the form of the Glitch Trap virus. But who would possibly want to bring a serial killer back to
Another
life? I mean,
person
think
that's
about what this
infected?
person has done. They've restarted an entire company, they've hired third parties to scan old circuit boards, they've rebranded the franchise, built a mall, and then doctored emails to hire someone, all in an effort to resurrect Afton. Who would do that? Who would go to that level of extreme? Can't be Vanessa,
Freaking
can't
out.
hire herself, can't be Michael, he's
Not
always
actually,
trying to
but,
get
you
rid
know.
of Afton, can't be Henry, he dissolved the company in the first place, can't be Gregory because he's trying to destroy the animatronics. But there is someone it can be.
I will make you proud, Daddy.
The only person who would be
Charlie?
that motivated to bring Afton back to life. The one person that
Oh,
through all of the
no.
games they've appeared in has been on Afton's side wanting to keep his vision alive. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I submit to you that Elizabeth Afton is the one in control of the new
Why did I say
Fazbear
Charlie?
Entertainment LLC.
It's
I guess
freaking
you could call her
Elizabeth.
the boss baby. I will now pause and give you a chance to write your collective groans, frustrations, and general vitriol down in the comments.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna groan at myself because why the hell did I say Charlie? I don't know anyone that says his name Charlie. It's freaking Elizabeth. And damn it. I'm sorry, guys. Let's continue on.
While you're doing that, let me quickly remind you that right above that fiery comment section is our merch shelf, where it's your last chance to
We're
pre-order
gonna
our
pause
new
real quick.
AR.
I think we're good to go. Let's go.
Yes, I'm doing this from the past. But Elizabeth is dead. Baby's eyes are blacked out in the blob. She died in FNAF 6. Yep, all of those are perfectly valid. I know it sounds insane, believe me. No one recognizes that more than me. But I ask you, when has any character that's meant to be dead in this franchise ever stayed dead? Let's just look at the facts,
He's
shall
right,
we?
you
Our
know.
second ever theory on this game drew attention to all the similarities between Elizabeth Afton and Vanessa. They both like flowers, they both have an abusive and manipulative father named William A., and of course, there's the blonde hair and green eyes. However,
Yep.
we've never been able to
Super
actually
obvious.
figure out how these two characters are connected beyond them just being similar. Could it just be another instance of this franchise doing what I like to call pulling a Jeremy? That's using the same detail multiple times just to confuse us. But you see, there's a
Oh,
bit
maybe.
more that's suspicious about Vanessa. There's one thing that me and every other theorist out there has been scared to tackle in this game, and it's this: Security Breach's fire escape ending. In it, Glamrock Freddy yeets Vanny off the top of a burning pizzaplex, sending both of them to their death. Gregory pulls off the Vanny mask to reveal that it was Vanessa the whole time! A twist that
Oh,
surprised
was it?
literally no one. Except after the credits, we pan up to the roof to see security guard Vanessa looking down as the building burns around her. Excuse me, what? Two
Yeah, now
Vanessas?
that's the
Everyone just
question.
kind of collectively hand-waved this away. It must be a hallucination. Maybe it's her spirit still trapped in the pizzaplex. Or maybe, just maybe, Vanny and Vanessa have always been two separate individuals. Two twin sisters.
Oh,
Hold on.
In
now that's
Security Breach
interesting.
Fury's Rage, we get VR sisters. That's one of the bosses in Fury's Rage, and I think it could be possible that one of the sisters, maybe Vanessa, went to go save her other sister after being taken over by Glitch Trap.
Recently, a new theorist has entered
Okay,
the ring with
I like
some pretty
that.
interesting things to say about Security Breach. John from the YouTube channel FNAF. And while I was busy coining the catchphrase Music Man, he was busy in his
Yells.
corner preaching the gospel of the VR sisters. Remember them? Of course you don't.
I
Why would
don't
you?
at
So
all.
let me refresh your memory. In case you've forgotten, Security Breach got delayed a lot. I mean, a lot. And at one point, Scott Cawthon, worried that the fan base would be upset about the repeated delays, decided to release a short little meme game to tide us
Oh,
all over. A
this is
beat-em-up
cool.
title called Fury's Rage.
The fan base, when they find out that I have to delay the game again, they're gonna kill me. What am I gonna do? I know. I'll make a game for them.
4 straightforward levels with a secret boss at the end, punching through waves of the franchise's most forgettable enemies.
Hey, wait,
Freddy
what's Freddy?
Frostbear, Clown,
Oh.
Springtrap, Radioactive Foxy, El-Chip. And the rest of the enemies are just
El-Chip.
variations of Chica, the Puppet, Mangle, Baby. As for the bosses, most of them are jokes. Sure, you've got Vanny, but there's also Mega Brow, which is just Brow
What
Boy
the-
from FNAF World. There's Soul Brawler, which is a reference to
Ooh.
one of Scott's earlier game characters, Soul Dozer. And the secret final boss of the game, Dreamgeist, basically a giant troll about fan theories. And yet, in this game full
Okay.
of memes and tongue-in-cheek references,
interested.
there's one set of characters that don't quite fit. The first level's boss, the VR sisters. They're the only truly original characters for this game. Literally everyone else you can point to and understand
You
what
can
the
just
reference
kick?
is. Now
That's
that is weird. Why would Scott put the time and effort into designing them, coming up with a name, and purposely putting them in there for us to look at if they weren't important in some way? With Vanessa being taken over by the Glitch Trap virus in FNAF VR, makes sense for this to be in relation to her in some way. She's a VR sister. And then her having a twin sister would explain why there could be a second Vanessa at the top of a burning building during the
Maybe.
ending. What is it that John's been
then
saying
what are
lately
the
in his
names?
theory vids?
Need more proof?
Yeah, I do. You probably do too. Luckily, I have it for you. Once you get to
Please.
level 4 of Fury's Rage, you find yourself in some sort of factory surrounded by conveyor belts and magnets holding up humanoid robot torsos. In the end, you fight Vanny and the game ends. But wait, before you get to the boss battle, there's one very crucial detail in the level that everyone overlooked. An orange pod with a female figure sitting inside. I've seen enough sci-fi to know that that right there is a birthing pod, and the figure inside looks an awful lot like Baby from the Fourth Closet graphic novel. That's right,
Yep,
friendos,
I
it's time
see it.
once again for everyone's favorite segment. MatPat uses the lore of multiple FNAF books to explain parts of the game that make no sense. In the Fourth Closet, Baby's origins take a weird turn. She's actually a robot built by Henry to help replace his daughter Charlie after her death. You see, Henry creates a robot for each stage of his daughter's life: toddler, child, teenager, and finally adult.
And
In
boom.
his mind, this would allow her to grow up with everyone else around her. And this gave us our first confirmed instance of robot kids being a thing inside of the series. Robots that are capable of bleeding, eating, feeling cold. And here's the weirdest twist of them all. Baby is the final adult form of Charlie, which, let's just say I have some
that's
strong
why I
feelings
said
about.
Charlie.
People
My
hate when I talk about
God.
the books. The books tell you the rough guidelines or rough rules of the universe.
So that's why I
when
said
you look at the
Charlie.
books, and there's this
Duh.
repeated thing of creators building robot kids. Okay, well, apparently that's fair game. And then to take it one insane logical step further and say, not only are they building robotic versions of kids, but multiple versions of robotic kids at
Yep.
different ages, I would say you are insane. That's so stupid. It is a weird thing for them to do.
And yet it's
it
canon.
challenges realism to such an absurd degree.
It's all there.
That you're like, yeah, and no one's noticing that this person that they're interacting with and that bleeds. Again, because they bleed in the books, that bleeds, no one is noticing that this person doesn't age, but is still also eating in order to survive, but is also like perfectly passable as a human in every other
mean,
way,
it
shape,
just
and
all
form.
makes sense.
That's crazy. And then the books layer on, and it's also Baby, who is a robot clown. And you're like, that's so stupid. I feel like
I
no
mean, it
wonder
kind of
people
is.
think that the theories that we produce are insane, because it is, but we're just telling you what the books say.
Welcome to the books, I guess. What's also interesting is that in the books, it's clear that previous versions of the robot humans don't have to stop working or die in order for newer, more grown-up models to activate. Both teenage Charlie and adult Charlie, aka Baby, are walking around, totally sentient with their own goals and motivations. One wanting to live a normal life, completely unaware that she's a robot, and the other looking to kill children in service of William Afton, bitter because she's a robot. Sounds a lot like the relationship between a certain young security guard and her twin sister Murder Rabbit. Now, while we
Yep,
have no
there
evidence
you
to
go.
really support Charlie being rebuilt in the game lore like she was in the books, it does seem like Elizabeth may have multiple sisters of herself running around. In the words of John, who first proposed this one a year ago,
It could be very well possible that once Elizabeth died, William Afton not too soon after rebuilt her and built different ages of her throughout the years, just like we see in the books
Could
in
have.
robot form. So that could be VR sisters, two different versions of the same person.
you know what? I think he's right. At the time, we didn't have the evidence, but
Not
now
bad.
I think he was ahead of his time. Move over, Gregory. There's a new robot human in town, and her name is Elizabeth Afton. And Vanessa.
bong.
And Vanny. And probably the head of Fazbear Entertainment LLC, too. All iterations of the same person from different life stages. All Elizabeth Afton. Some aware of who they really are, and some not. And one of those versions is Ruin DLC Girl. In some of Security Breach's cut dialogue, there are laugh lines that are
got?
definitely feminine, but also some that clearly mix in a young girlish tone.
That does sound
Hear that
like a
last
young
one?
child.
Clearly there's a childish girl laugh with a bit of a British accent mixed in there, exactly like the voice of Elizabeth from Sister Location. Sites like the Cutting
Oh,
Room Floor
yeah.
attribute these as cut Vanny lines, which makes sense considering that there aren't many human females in the game, but that laugh seems awfully young for Vanessa, or Vanny.
It
And that's not all.
is
Going back
really
to Fury's
young
Rage,
sounding.
notice the shoes on the VR sisters, specifically the cool purple sneakers. I could have sworn that they had matched the design of the blonde girl's light-up sneakers in the Ruin DLC
Oh,
poster,
they
but upon
kind
closer
of
inspection,
do.
yeah, it was close, but not strong enough of a match for me to call it out in a theory. Dead end, right? No.
I mean,
Notice
those
the
are
two
just
colors
shoes.
on those shoes, red and purple. Very specific shades of red and purple. And what's the coloring of our two VR sisters? Red and purple. Seems that maybe,
Oh.
just maybe, this blonde girl is also part of the Elizabeth sisters. So that would actually give us our four closets.
Oh, boy.
Baby, the original, young girl Elizabeth in the Ruin DLC, Vanessa, the 23-year-old security guard according to the FNAF AR emails, and Vanny, who, you know, just might be slightly older. Her being a robot would also explain how she survived a massive fall from the top of a pizzaplex without being totally disfigured. Personally, I think this would actually be a pretty cool idea, having all the versions of Elizabeth come together. This child, Vanny, Vanessa, maybe even the original baby would show up to complete the tribe of robot Elizabeths. But doesn't all of this disprove my initial theory? If Vanny is the adult version of Elizabeth, then doesn't that mean we're out of Elizabeths to run Fazbear Entertainment LLC? We've filled all 4 of our closets. Well, not quite. Because when you get to the very end of that final book, Charlie's love interest John stands by Charlie's grave after all the other known versions of her have died. He looks up and sees none other than yet another, slightly older version of Charlie standing in front of him. I kind of just wrote this off initially as a cute ending, but in the wake of what we've been talking about this whole time, it reveals that there were never just 4 closets. There were never just 4 versions of Charlie. There were more.
Clearly not.
Potentially an infinite number of them, which honestly makes sense. Can't have a 20-something-year-old Charlie looking 20 forever. She too would need to age up to look like a woman in her 30s, her 40s, her 50s. This idea is also shown in Fury's Rage. While the VR sisters are the first bosses, after you defeat them, they become regular enemies during the 3rd level. There are dozens of them that come out to attack you, one after the other after the other, new ones being built to achieve their purpose. Other bosses don't do that in the game. And in stage 4, those humanoid robot torsos hanging from the ceiling, they look a little bit more on the feminine side to me. Robot women being built by the boatload, ready to replace the ones that we destroy, be they VR sisters or security guards or murderous rabbits. And at the top of the food chain is an older, wiser, more vengeful version of Elizabeth pulling the strings, looking to bring her family of robots all back together to the same place. I suppose you could say that that makes the Pizzaplex the true sister location. But hey, say all you want about Elizabeth's business practices, you gotta admit, she knows how to dress up a joint. I've always loved how the Pizzaplex looks. That 80s neon style just hits the nostalgia button hard for me. Fortunately, the metal posters from our sponsor Displate are here to scratch that.
Yeah, and looks like we're going on to the sponsor, and that's it. Okay, so folks, that is what we're going to end up today's video. I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Down in the description will be a link to the original video, so remember to support the original creator and all they do, and I'll see all of you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.